السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يقول الله عز وجل في القرآن الكريم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. All praise is due to Allah. We praise Him, we seek His help and we seek His forgiveness. We seek refuge in Allah from the evil of ourselves and the evil of our actions. Whomever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides, none can misguide, and whomever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala leads astray, none can guide. And I bear witness that there is no God or deity worthy of worship but one, Allah alone. And I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is His slave and His messenger. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward and bless each and every single one of us for attending the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we get rewarded for every second that we are waiting for Maghrib prayer. Every second that has passed from now to Maghrib, inshallah, we get rewarded for it. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this heaviness because of good deeds. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to put barakah, blessings in these series, inshallah. Also, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect, safeguard and grant victory to our brothers and sisters in Palestine. Ameen. There is a narration that says that subhanallah, as soon as Ibrahim married Hajar A.S, Hajar got pregnant and gave birth to a boy. As for Sarah, which is the first wife of Ibrahim A.S, she's now reached an old age and she has no children at that stage, in that stage, no children. And there's a narration that says that, subhanAllah, Sarah, the first wife, got really jealous from the second wife, Hajar A.S, and she actually couldn't control herself. And that was the main reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded Ibrahim A.S to take his second wife Hajar and her newborn Ismail A.S all the way to Mecca. Take them all the way to Mecca, subhanAllah, and that's where we'll begin today's lesson. So Ibrahim A.S. all of a sudden comes and he tells his wife Hajar, I'm taking you to a place, prepare yourself. So they prepared themselves with maybe a pouch of water, leather pouch, where they put water in, and a bit of dates, and they went and they traveled. Subhanallah, Ibrahim A.S. was completely silent. Didn't say a word to his wife. He just went, kept on marching, kept on talking, kept on walking, and anytime Hajar would ask questions like, where are we going? He wouldn't reply at all. Until they reach Baytullah al-Haram, until they reach Mecca, where the Kaabah is going to be built. Until they reach this place. Subhanallah, when he reached the place, he literally, and I want my brothers here to just, subhanallah, picture this for a moment. He put them, left them, turned his back and walked off. Deserted area. No human, no animals, no fruits, no water, nothing, plain land. Literally left them and he starts to walk away. Any normal person, let alone a wife, would start to ask questions and subhanAllah, struggle to accept what's happening. Hey, how are you leaving me? You're my husband. You're meant to be providing me and protecting me. How are you leaving me and going? And that's what the role of the husband is. How are you protecting me? How are you, subhanAllah, leaving me in this deserted area? And he wouldn't say a word, Ibrahim A.S. And you can see she felt that he was so upset, but he wouldn't talk. He wouldn't say a word. So she was persistent and after him and actually hanging on to him and pulling him through his clothes like, Ibrahim, what are you doing? How are you leaving me? How are you leaving your newborn son? What's wrong with you? Absolutely nothing. Not a word. And then she realized something. But before I continue, she's a wife and he's a husband. In reality, before being prophet, she's a wife and he's a husband. Today we see many of the youth have this ideology thinking that a man, but a man, khalas, he thinks he's divine, he thinks he can do whatever he wants, and his wife can't question him. His wife can't question him. Whatever he does, We men aren't prophets, yeah? We got more faults than our wives, let's just say. And your wife is allowed to question you. Hajar A.S. questioned Ibrahim. Hajar A.S. questioned her husband. No, it's fine. A wife is allowed to question her husband. And I don't want the men to have this ideology. How dare you question me? I am the Rijal al-Bad. These are all a lot in the Lebanese culture, mostly. Or in the Arab culture, mostly. But there are different cultures. As soon as a woman asks the man something, and khalas, it's like as if she's subhanAllah accused him about something huge. And it's not true. It's not true. You're allowed to question your husband. The wife is allowed to question. It's fine. It's allowed. You and your wife are partners. You aren't master and slave. No. This is not Islam. Partners. That's what the husband and wife is all about. But there's a twist here. So now the wife will realize through this story, Hajar questioning Ibrahim, a wife can question her husband. And obviously if you've got nothing to hide, tell them the truth. You're going out with your friends. You're going out for lunch. You're going out with dessert. What's wrong with that? If you're doing nothing wrong, why are you retaliating and getting angry and getting frustrated? Where are you going? Oh, I'm just going out with my friends today, inshallah. ما في شيء. There's nothing wrong with it. Hajar questioned Ibrahim A.S. She says to him, eventually when she realized that he did not say a word and very silent the whole journey, days, subhanAllah, from Sham to Mecca. Allah, how long that takes? Walking, no plane. Then she says, Allahu amaraka bihada. She says to him, did Allah command you to do this, to leave us here in this spot? Did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala command you to do this, ya Ibrahim? And he, with one word, one reply, he says, Naam, yes. So she questioned him, and he replied. He answered. Eventually he answered. But he wasn't answering at the start because it was very hard for him. He wasn't, Allah, khalas, leave him, walk off. He's a human being as well, yeah? It was very hard to him to just accept that they're going to be in a deserted area. And sometimes many of the husbands, when they travel, Umrah, Hajj, or going camping or fishing, those who have a heart, leaving their wife alone at home, sometimes they actually find it of a struggle. Sometimes they want their mother-in-law or someone to come sleep at the house. There's nothing wrong with it. But imagine a deserted area. Not one human being, nothing living there. A full desert. So it was very hard for Ibrahim A.S. to even talk about that. But eventually when she says, Allahu amaraka bihada, did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala command you to do this, to leave us here? He turned around and he says, Naam. He says, yes. طيب. Big lesson here. Why? The wife is allowed to question the husband. صح? The wife is allowed to question the husband. And she can have an opinion. Up until a point when there's divine. Up to a point where there's قال Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, or قال Rasul, what the Prophet has said in the hadith. As soon as we or people say to the wife, or even the wife saying to the husband, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded this and his dalil, his evidence, the wife and the husband shut their mouth. So the wife can question, she can talk, she can ask, saying, but as soon as there's divine, as soon as not, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded this, that's when you submit. Hajar submitted. She said, إِذَنْ لَا يُضَيِّعُنَ اللَّهِ. She said, if that's the case, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands you to leave us here, then rest assured Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not leave us here. He will not forget us here. So she questioned him. She questioned him. She got the answer. And she would have kept on going, but as soon as Ibrahim said yes, because Ibrahim is a prophet, so that's divine, it's a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, she remained silent and she reassured herself that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not forget us and would not leave us alone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect us. Subhanallah. And you know what that is? That's something called Tawakul. Trust and confidence and reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What Hajar alayhi salam did there, no man today can do. No man today can do. Let's be frank. Let's be honest to ourselves. The trust and the reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala she had, literally like in a desert, there's no shelter, there's no home, there's no water. There's only a bit of a pouch, a leather pouch of water and a bit of dates. That's it. That's. Her baby's newborn, still getting breastfed, so he can't help it anyway. And she says, إِذَنْ لَا يُضَيِّعُنَ اللَّهِ. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not forget us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not forget us. You know, if we had maybe 1% of that reliance, all of us would be in a different state today. All of us, beginning with ourselves. If we had 1% of the reliance of Hajar A.S. طيب. Subhanallah, when after Ibrahim A.S. walked off, and she said, إِذَنْ لَا يُضَيِّعُنَ اللَّهِ, she put the trust and confidence in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She had Tawakul. And Hatim bin Asam, he says 4 things. When he was questioned, Wallahi al-Azim, if we can understand these, just these 4 things today, alhamdulillah, I think I've accomplished my lecture. My objective is my lecture. To have confidence and reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is easier said than done. And if I don't maybe explain it through this saying of Hatim bin Asam, rahimahullah, we would leave and not really understand, comprehend the meaning of trust and reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Maybe. But he summarized it in 4 ways. In 4 things. If we can do these 4 things, if we can understand these 4 things, and walk and work around these 4 things, we will find ourselves more content, more relaxed, more understanding how this world works. And we'll be more closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we'll have more reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hatim bin Asam rahimahullah says, he was asked a question, how do you perfect tawakkul? How do you perfect the reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Something that you and I are starving for today. Please pay attention, my brothers and my sisters. He says, number 1. He says, I knew and I know that my rizq, my sustenance is already written. How much I'm going to make in my life. So brother, how much you're going to make? How much you're going to make in this life, whether it's $1 million or $2 million or $100,000, that is written before you and I are even born. It's been written. And wallahi, every sin that is written before you and I are born will come to our possession. No doubt. So Hatim says, I know yaqinan, because he's a true believer in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that my sustenance that has been written before I was born is going to come to me in any way or form. So I was relaxed and calm about my sustenance. That's number 1. Number 2, he says, I understood and I acknowledged and I knew that nobody in the world is going to do the acts of worship except me. So I worked on my act of worship. To enter Jannah, you got to do acts of worship. You can't pay someone to pray for you. You can't pay someone to fast for you. You have to fast. You have to pray. If you have the capability, you have to go to Hajj. You have to recite the Quran. To get rewards, you have to put in the effort and you have to work. So he said, I knew that I have to work for my deeds. So I worked on my deeds. I worked for my Jannah. I worked that my good scales on the Day of Judgment is heavier than my bad deeds. So I had to work for it. The third one, he says, he knew without any doubt that death is going to come to him. So I prepared for it. Anyone here or anyone in the world, all of us can guarantee that we're going to die. One way or another. Whether we're young or old, rich or poor, men or women, we're going to die at one stage in our lives. We're going to die. So he says, I knew I was going to die. So I prepared for it. I prepared for that moment when I'm in the grave by myself. I prepared for that moment where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask me questions of what I did in this life. So I prepared for it. I prepared for that moment when I'm going to walk above the bridge and underneath that bridge is the fire. Is Jahannam. So I prepared for it. Khalas. The fourth one, he says, and this is strong. He says, and I knew that every place in the world, every place that I walk in this world, or I am wherever I am in the world, I knew that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can see me and can hear me. So I had I was too embarrassed to do something besides pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahu Akbar. 4 things. We want to rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We want to have a strong reliance. Number 1 is know your sustenance is going to come to you. Number 2 is know that no one else is going to do you the good deed except yourself. Number 3, my brothers and my sisters, is that you know you're going to die, so prepare for it. And number 3, know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees you and hears you. So have that haya, have that shyness from sinning in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the trust. There was a narration that says that Ibrahim A.S actually came to Hajar at one stage. And he asked her, who left you here by yourselves? And she said, no, we're not here by ourselves. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to be looking after us. He said, then that's enough. That's enough. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is enough for us, my brothers and my sisters. Especially in what is happening with Palestine today. So we can relate. We did our part. But no, put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The world, if you look at it, everything's against Islam. And wallahi, if you only looked at it practically, without faith, without trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, without the Quran, without the Sunnah, and without history, all of us will fall into despair. Let's be real. Let's be real. All of us will fall into despair. But it's just that little trust that we have in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that allows us to sleep the night. And allows us to have a bit of hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that things will improve bi-idhnillahi azza wa jal. Until, subhanAllah, Ibrahim A.S. walked all the way, he walked back to the Sham until he reached the point where he can't see his wife and child, newborn child, and his wife and child can't see Ibrahim A.S. Ibrahim turns around and faces Mecca, the Kaabah. He turns around and he faces Mecca and he says, as Allah mentions in the Quran, رَبَّنَا إِنِّي أَسْكَنْتُ مِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِي بِوَادٍ غَيْرَ ذِي زَرْعٍ عِنْدَ بَيْتِكَ الْمُحَرَّمِ رَبَّنَا لِيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ فَاجْعَلْ أَفْئِدَةً مِنَ النَّاسِ تَهْوِي إِلَيْهِمْ وَارْزُقْهُم مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَشْكُرُونَ. Wallah al-Azim, this verse is amazing. Wallahi, this verse, if you just read it just like that, it's beautiful. But when you dive in, this summarizes maybe all our lives today. The way we live our life today. So he turns around and then he makes dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he says, Ya Rabb, inni askantu min dhurriyati. Ma inni taraktu. He didn't say, Ya Rabb, I left them there now. I've allowed them to live there. Big difference. He says, biwadin ghayra dhi zar'in. In a place, Ya Rabb, there's no trees, there's nothing to consume, no food, no drink, nothing there. عند بيتك المحرم, in the house, your house, the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Mecca. رَبَّنَا لِيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ. First thing. What was the first thing he said, Ibrahim A.S.? I allowed them to live there by your command. Number 1, the main reason, لِيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ, so they can establish prayer. So Ibrahim A.S. is asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first, something spiritually. Ya Rabb, allows them to make sure first is that they establish the prayer, that they do not lose connection with you, Ya Rabb. That's the first thing. Everything else doesn't matter. If the first thing, us connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is not established, we've lost the world. We've lost the purpose of life. We've lost the purpose of life. So when you're making dua, number one is to connect with Allah. Is to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep you and us steadfast on the straight path. That's your first part of your dua. And then the worldly affairs. Because we're allowed to have worldly affairs. There's nothing wrong with it. He said, first he said, رَبَّنَا لِيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ فَاجْعَلْ أَفْئِدَةً مِنَ النَّاسِ تَهْوِي إِلَيْهِمْ وَارْزُقْهُم مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ. So then he says, okay, Ya Rabb, first, so they can stay steadfast on your religion, so they can have connection with you, Ya Rabb. Number 1, connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 2 is the worldly affairs. Ya Rabb, also allow people to come to them and to give them sustenance, and food and drink. You're meant to have things in this world. You are allowed to, Ya Rabb, keep me steadfast on the religion, and Ya Rabb, make me a multi-billionaire. Not for you, shit, there's nothing wrong with it. But number one is connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Type why? So you can use the $1 billion, anything that you get in the worldly life, in the right way. in the right way. Then what he concludes with? He says, لَعَلَّهُمْ يَشْكُرُونَ. He says, okay, Ya Rab, I've allowed them to live there. Ya Rab, by your command, they're living in Mecca when no one is there, لِيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ, to establish prayer. And then he said, Ya Rab, allow people to come to them and give them sustenance, something worldly. And then he concluded by saying, لَعَلَّهُمْ يَشْكُرُونَ, which is a hint to you and I, is that when you make that dua and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses you something in the world, do not forget to thank Him. Do not forget to praise Him. Do not forget to show content to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because worldly, what do we see people today? Practically, yeah? We see people in the front line. It's happened for many of the brothers that I know. Wallah, many. Front line, Ya Rab, rizqni, Ya Rab, give me sustenance. Ya Rab, make me buy my first house or my first car, and. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives it to them. He gives them what He asked. But they forget the third part. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَشْكُرُونَ. Okay, now you've got the money. Thank Allah. Still come to the masjid. Still come to the front line. Still come to prayer. Still come to lectures. Not when you get what you want, you leave Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No, it doesn't work like that. Because in that blessing that you ask for will become a trial. It will become a trial. Which this trial can lead you to Jahannam wal-'iyadhu billah. So this small dua is so huge. It's like a mountain. And it summarizes what we need in this world. To live our life, we need to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Get what you can from nasib of dunya, from what you want in this world. Get what you can so long as it's halal, but then don't forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But then don't forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just with this dua, was just maybe a couple of lines of verse in the Quran. It summarizes everything that we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for in this world. طيب. So we said Hajar alayhi salam had trust, reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, had tawakkul. So we have a problem with this, with many people, illa ma rahima rabbi, is they understand tawakkul very wrong. They understand it in a non-Islamic way. Where people have tawakkul, they have trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then they do not take by the means, they do not take by the asbab. They do not do actions. They do not take by the means. They think that trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is literally just staying in your room or in a mosque and just putting your hand up. That is not tawakkul. That is not tawakkul. There's a word for it in Arabic, I'm going to abstain from it for now, but that's something else. طيب? That's not tawakkul. Hajar alayhi salam put her trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then she took by the means. She took by the means. She went to Safa and Marwa, which I'm going to explain. So I'm going to give you a practical example, my brothers and my sisters. Akhi, you want to get married? You want to get married? Like, what have you done for marriage? Are you working? Because Habib, I don't care how long you be these. And I don't care how many times you're in the masjid. If you're not working, no father in his right mind will give his daughter. No father in his right mind will give his daughter. If you're just staying in the mosque doing nothing. You have to go out and work. You have to go out and look after his daughter eventually. You can't be sitting down playing PlayStation 24/7, akhi. That doesn't work. Okay, you can't be bludgeoning your whole life and expect a wife to come out of nowhere. And the same thing as well is my brothers, many of the brothers want a righteous wife. طيب, beautiful. Make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that blesses you with a righteous wife. So how are you? How do you connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What are you spending your Friday nights and Thursday nights and Saturday nights? Where are you spending it? In the masjid or somewhere else? Be realistic. Be realistic. You want the good. You have to be good. You have to be good. You can't, subhanallah, just sit down and absolutely do nothing and say, oh, I put my trust and confidence in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can't even say that, Ya Rab, guide me to the truth, guide me to the straight path, allow me to stop smoking and listening to music and taking drugs and all that. But akhi, you're 24/7 with friends and an evil environment. You gotta take by the means, you gotta take by the asbab. Wallah, many other brothers said to me, brother, wallah, it's very difficult, it's very hard, and I need to get married, and I'm struggling, and I'm losing my mind, and everything. Okay, brother, what do you do for work? Oh, I'm a security guard at a nightclub. Really? What did you do yesterday? Yeah, I went to the beach. Okay, where are you going? Obviously, you got nothing there anymore left. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Are you fasting? Nah, fasting doesn't work for me. Oof. No, the Prophet ﷺ told you fast, خلاص, trust him. Trust him. But you gotta abstain from the environment, you gotta take by the asbab, you gotta take by the means. Tawakkul by itself does not work. To say I believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not pray does not work. It's the same by saying that I put my trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you do not take by the asbab, you do not take by the means. This is an Islamic and incorrect understanding of Islam or of tawakkul. This is wrong. So this is something that we need to be aware of. Hajar A.S. implements this. She has tawakkul more than anyone in the world today. طيب. What did she do, akhi? What did she do? Did she sit down and do nothing about it? خلاص. A prophet told her, a prophet told her this is the command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Did she just sit down and do absolutely nothing? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not subhanallah forget her, and he will not subhanallah lose her, no. But she took by the asbab, she took by the means. What did she do? A woman. Now there's no more water, there's no more dates. Her son is starving, Ismail A.S. is starving, and he's thirsty, and she's struggling as a mother now. She's struggling. So she began taking by the asbab, taking by the means. She climbed up a mountain. You know when you go Umrah sometimes, subhanAllah, and then the Shaykh is there saying, oh, this is we're doing Safa and Marwa, this is what Hajar A.S. did, and moved on, and that's it. There's more to it, akhi, there's more to it. Sister, wallah, there's more to it. You know what it means to climb a mountain? Nahna, 1-story stairs were huffing and puffing. You know what a mountain is? It's not tiled floors like we see today in Mecca. Huh? Tiled floors, a bit of mountain, and look, oh, looks nice, take a picture. No. She climbed the mountain. She full on, no harness, no nothing. She climbed up Safa. She climbed it up. And to put things in perspective, you know the whole line that you do in Umrah, that whole Safa, that was up. It wasn't straight, it wasn't flat, it was up. It was up. She climbed up Safa. This is what I mean by taking by the asbab, taking by the means. She climbed up the mountain of Safa. And she started to scream, is there anyone there? Can anyone hear me? And she wait and look, nothing. Not a soul. Nothing at all. Did it end? Nah. She'll come back down. That coming down is hard as well. She'll come back down Safa. And then there's a wadi, there's a little valley. She would not walk it. She would come down. Now she's actually able to. She would run it. She would run the valley and then climb up Marwa. She would climb it. Again, a full mountain. That run, if you go to Safa and Marwa today, is between the two green lights. What do we do when we go Umrah? We all do it. All the group, the boys. I've done it a few times. As soon as it hits the first green light, ready? Ready? Everyone's ready. Hold on to the tail and run. Who's going to get there faster? So, which is good. We should be enjoying ourselves. But just, I want you just to, subhanAllah, she has a baby. She's a woman. It's uphill. It's a full mountain. And she ran it. She went up to Marwa, and she also again called out, is there anyone there? 7 times. 7 times. Until she ended in Marwa. Wallahi, it's a struggle. But she had tawakkul, she had reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but she took by the means. Literally took by the means to see if anyone is there. All of a sudden, she hears a noise, just like a fake noise. So she says, Sahin. Sahin means not sah. Sah means be quiet in Arabic. Sah means you're telling to someone, be quiet. Sahin is when you're telling yourself to be quiet. There's no one there. So she says, Sahin, like, oh, what? Let me listen. Did I hear something? And subhanAllah, from a distance, because even now when you go now, you can still kind of see, or you probably can't see it now, but it's not as far, subhanAllah, when you go on Mecca and when you go on Safa and Marwa, you have to look towards the Kaabah, yeah? She looked towards the Kaabah where Ismail was, her son, and then she saw an angel. She got frightened, obviously, and she ran back down to where her baby is. It's narrated that Jibreel A.S. struck down the earth, struck it down with his ring. And subhanAllah, a spring of water gushed out from the ground. What did Hajar A.S. do? She, subhanAllah, started to gather the water. And this is why it's called ZamZam. She was gathering the water. She was zamzaming, subhanAllah, the water. The Prophet ﷺ says that if Hajar let the ZamZam go, let it go, it will be a whole spring of ZamZam water. A whole spring. But then the ulama said, but can you blame her? Because anyone else in her position, there's no one else in the world, okay, around her, she's going to keep it all for herself. So she would, every time the spring gushed out, she would gather it together, fill up her leather pouch, feed herself and feed her son. Feed herself and feed her son, subhanAllah. So she'd never allow it to burst completely. And ZamZam water. Water that is full of barakah, full of blessings. The Prophet ﷺ even calls it that it was ta'am, it was actually food. And many people have tried this. I've tried this myself as well. But wallah, many people have tried this. Maybe I went 7, 8, 9 hours, just ZamZam water, I'm full, like as if I've eaten mansaf or rice and chicken. I feel like I'm full. And many of the brothers who go and study there, because you can't bring them food to Medina, I was in Medina at the time, they would, subhanAllah, every time they can, they'll drink from the ZamZam water. And it's like as if they've eaten food. SubhanAllah, this is a blessing. And the Prophet says in another hadith, Al-ma'u zamzam lima shurriba lah. The ZamZam water is for whatever you ask for. So, when you get ZamZam water, read on it and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for anything, any supplication, drink the water, inshallah you get what you want. The brother's going to say, brother, I can't afford it, I can't go to Umrah, I can't go to Hajj. No problem. Broad Mirat al-Attar, go there, they're sending it everywhere, and go back from there. Don't let go of this beautiful benefit. Wallah al-Azim. Go drink ZamZam water, have wudu in ZamZam water. When you go there, make wudu in ZamZam water. People get angry and want, Akhi, the Prophet ﷺ used to do it. Go make wudu. They used to have showers with the ZamZam water. But subhanAllah, this ZamZam water lasted from then until the day of judgment. The ZamZam water. Wallahi, akhi, if you want to question Islam, question Islam. But does that make sense to you? If that's not a miracle, then what is? We've got miracles around us. We've got miracles, heaps of miracles around us. But sometimes we're blind, we don't see the miracles. Sometimes we need to remind ourselves, man, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most great. He's the most merciful. Islam is real. Islam is real. Let's be proud, because there are people who are leaving Islam and doubting Islam. There are people and there's a whole agenda being pushed about it. Just be frank about it. So we need to, inshallah, let that iman reignite in our hearts بإذن الله عز وجل. طيب. So ZamZam water is a blessing. طيب, it's a blessing, and inshallah ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that all of us are able to drink ZamZam water as much as we want. طيب. SubhanAllah, days went past, months went past, there's no specific narration. But an Arab group were in the outskirts of Mecca. And they are all dehydrated, they don't know where they're going. Some whole tribe that's migrating from one place to another, they've gotten lost. And all of a sudden one of the leaders sees a bird circulating a place, which is Baytullah al-Haram, which is the actual Mecca. And he sent two messengers, he said, Allah, there are people there, or water there, or something there. Go and suss it, go and see what's going on there. So the messengers went and they saw a woman and a baby. They saw a woman and a baby and water. So they go back to the leaders and they all come to Hajar A.S. What do? Do they kill her? Do they take her home and say, oh, we came here first, pushed you aside and sat there, the stronger power? Is that what they did? No. They took permission from a woman. How many thousands of years ago? In an Arab country, and they were Arabs. We got a monkey country called Israel, the only democratic country in the Middle East. Wallah, they don't know what democracy is itself. Absolute embarrassment, literally stealing the entire land, and they're saying we're all about human rights and animal rights. And a Bedouin, thousands of years ago, had more common sense than you monkeys, Israelis. Allah ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to destroy them today before tomorrow, Ya Rabbi. Ameen. So subhanAllah, Hajar A.S, because she had that fear in her heart, she said, yeah, no problem, stay. You can settle here. but then touched the water. Because she wants the water for her son and for herself. And then the ulama say that eventually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala eased her heart and she allowed them to drink from ZamZam. Then Ismail grew up. He grew up, subhanAllah, and he learned the Arabic language from these Arabs. He learned the Arabic language from these Arabs until he became a shab, a young man. And then Ibrahim A.S. came back and visited them. We're not going to continue from there. Next week, inshallah, we're going to speak about other things, inshallah, also regarding Ibrahim A.S. In regards to Mecca, there is a huge difference of opinion of how the Kaabah was built, when was it built, who built it first, was it the angels, was it Adam, was it Ibrahim, and so on and so forth. There's a huge khilaf. I didn't think to mention the whole khilaf because it's there now. So there's no need to really dive into something like that. But in a nutshell, there's a lot of ulama that say that, subhanAllah, the angels built the Kaabah before Adam A.S. Others say that Adam A.S., he was the one that first built the Kaabah, and then it was destroyed with the Tufan, with the flood of Nuh A.S., and then Ibrahim built it. Okay, there was already positions of where the Kaabah is, and then Ibrahim and Ismail built the Kaabah. That's another opinion. Okay, or they say no, it was just there, and then Ibrahim was the first one that actually built it. Different opinion. In summary, Allah Ta'ala alam, this is the opinion I'll go with, is that it was built, whether it was before Adam or Adam A.S. built it, but it wasn't built to the Kaabah that we see, but it was just had foundations. And then Ibrahim A.S. and Ismail, وَيَرْفَعْ إِبْرَاهِيمُ الْقَوَاعِدَ مِنَ الْبَيْتِ, where Ibrahim and his son came and built the entire Kaabah from the foundations that were before him, which were, Allahu Alam, the foundations that Adam A.S. put, or the angels before Adam A.S. It doesn't matter, Allah Ta'ala Alam, Allah knows best which is the more correct, but the Kaabah was built, and subhanallah, Ibrahim and Ismail built the Kaabah, bit different to the way we see it today. Today we see a huge cube, and then there's like a circle which is called Hajar Ismail. That circle, half circle, that is the main size of the Kaabah in itself. That is the actual Kaabah of Ibrahim A.S. The entire thing. So it wasn't just a cube and then a circle, no. That's what they call the Hajar Ismail. This is actually part of the Kaabah. So people fight and go crazy about entering the Kaabah and want to pray inside the Kaabah. You praying in the Hajar, in the semicircle in the Kaabah, it's as if you prayed in the actual Kaabah. Okay, so there's no need to punch on with everyone. Okay, you pray there, alhamdulillah. It's like as if you prayed in the Kaabah. So if you were to face outside of Hajar Ismail, your prayer is accepted, but don't do it because they'll think you are a bit different. Inshallah. But yeah, that's the main thing, and then it was destroyed again, and then it was built again with Quraysh, where the Prophet ﷺ obviously helped put in the black stone, subhanAllah. As for the black stone, there are different opinions. Some said this is a stone from Jannah, it was pure white, and then from the sins of the people it became black, and Allah knows best if it's true or not. Wallahu ta'ala alam. We continue on next week. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward you all and bless you. أقول قولي هذا وبارك الله فيكم.